Hi, I'm Mitch, and here we are in my kitchen garden on the edge of the ancient woodlands of the New Forest. It's 100% organic, no dig, and totally pesticide and chemical free. There's certainly no man-made chemicals or nasties in this garden. Today I'd love to show you around so you can see some of the things I've been growing and the progress I've made over the last 6 months since moving from Suffolk down to Hampshire to set up this incredible showcase garden. One of the main focuses with the new garden is to create habitat for the local wildlife and insects. This can come in the form of ponds, log stacks, or even no-dig beds to help promote a healthy soil food web and get that biology back working underground. Over at the pond, this is one of the best things I've done to attract wildlife to the garden. Over 70% of ponds have been lost from the UK landscape, meaning that garden ponds like this are playing an increasingly important role for attracting wildlife. Here already we have snails, leeches, dragonflies laying larvae, water beetles and fish. I don't even know how they got here. Around the outside of the pond we've got a whole host of flowers. Things like African marigolds, calendulas, this is a beautiful snow white variety, nasturtiums, incredible fiery yellow flowers on this, that is absolutely stunning. Then down here we have one of my favorite herbs. This is Mexican tarragon, and wow, the smell is like tarragon but with like a pineapple citrusy after zing. Absolutely delicious on top of salads, thrown into different types of sauces. Would highly recommend growing Mexican tarragon. Around the edge here we have these incredible purpley blue sweet peas, which adds a really nice calm and cooling vibe to the pond. And these crazy looking dudes are called Love in the Mist, and they have incredible, really complex flowers and even more complex, incredible seed heads. So that's the pond. Come with me and I want to show you something else really cool that we've got going on in the garden. Another form of habitat creation is these log stacks. A vitally important but often overlooked element of the garden is the presence of dead and decaying wood. Inoculating logs with mushrooms is a great way to increase crop production while providing habitat for lichens, mosses and insects. Coming out from behind the mushroom log stack, well hey, mind the slippers, we have my little lawn area which I've built in the shape of a mushroom. This is a space for me to relax, unwind, do some stretching and yoga whilst being encircled in all types of herbs and flowering plants. My plan for next year is to create this as a whole medicine herbaceous border. So all different types of healing plants. So when we have different types of illnesses, we can come here, pick and make different tinctures and make remedies to heal ourselves. Now let's take a look at the main growing beds in the garden. First up, we have the bed by the shed, home to leeks, celery and winged beans. You may notice that my beds in the garden are completely encircled by all different types of flowers. Flowers aren't just a beautiful addition, they attract insects who assist with pollination and the control of pests. On this side, we have the 3 main garden beds, which are all in a market garden style. So that is these thin, long beds, which allows us access so we can then harvest and plant out in an easy way without having to go up and down. It also allows us to be able to move wheelbarrows freely up and down the growing system. In here we have some lettuce, which I've let go to seed, and I'll be harvesting these seeds in a few weeks' time, also making a video about this. This was home to more salad greens, which has been harvested. This will then be mulched, and then I'll be putting in plantings of oriental greens, mizunas, rockets, beetroots, and spring onions. Next we have multi-sown beetroot. On the other side we have edamame beans. The variety is Tenkuro edamame, a quick maturing soybean, premium soybean from Japan. A second sowing of carrots, more marigolds, turnips, onions and parsley. Towards the end, we have arguably the best creation of the garden, and it's the bean teepee. In here, we have 5 different varieties of climbing bean around the teepee, and it's a great place to come and just hang around and be encased by vines. Now let's take a look in the polytunnel where things really start hotting up. But first, let me show you these really cool mushrooms I've got growing in these bags. Given to me by Marvelous Mushrooms, good friend of mine. This is a wild white oyster strain, and you can see it just starting to pin in there. Things have been a little bit difficult with the hot weather we've been experiencing, but pleased to finally start seeing some pins. And in this bag here, we have a personal favourite of mine. This is the very young pins of a lion's mane, Hericium erinaceus. An easy to grow, immune boosting, medicinal mushroom, which is absolutely delicious. Can't wait to harvest this one. So in the polytunnel, this is my favourite place to be in the garden. We have all different types of things growing in here. The first, on this side, we have rows of tomatoes. We have over 30 varieties of tomato in here, and it's not just me that enjoys them. The little blackbirds have been in here nibbling my tomatoes overnight because I haven't closed the polytunnel doors. So that's something that I would highly recommend to people. If you're having bird damage in the polytunnel, close the doors up. It does mean getting up a little bit early to open the tunnel when things are getting hot in the summer, but you're going to stop the wildlife from eating your delicious tomatoes. This variety is Thorburn's Terracotta, a really unique, really fruity tomato, absolutely gorgeous. Would highly recommend growing that. And then just next door, we have Orange Ray, and these are long, I would say plum-shaped tomatoes, but these are going to go really orange with yellow stripes down them. They're quite a late maturing variety, but really excited to eat these when ready. So more tomatoes along the whole thing. We have things like Sergeant's Pepper, Brad's Atomic Grape, Alice's Dream, Blue Beauty, Mushroom Basket. Absolutely crazy looking tomato here. And you can see why it gets the name the Mushroom Basket, as it has this sort of weaved basket appearance. Now, one of the main things I like to do with my tomatoes is interplant with basil and marigolds. According to many different growers, growing tomato and basil makes the tomatoes taste better, and you can also just pick off a tomato and pick off a leaf of basil, pop them in and enjoy those delicious flavors together. On this side, we have some even more exciting tomatoes I'd like to show you. This guy is called Crushed Heart, and I mean, have you ever seen a tomato look more gothic than this dude down here? Pretty impressive. Moving back along the tomatoes, there's a couple more I'd like to show you. This guy, this is called Korean Long, and it's another similar heart-shaped tomato, but a lot of people think it looks a bit like a bell pepper. We harvested one of these a couple of days ago, the first one that was ready, and boy was it delicious. We're just going to scooch through to the other side of the tunnel, where it's a tale of 2 stories. We've got the good and the bad. One of the crops I was most excited about growing, which grew really well for me last year in Suffolk, is aubergines. I have 15 different varieties, and as you can see, they haven't really grown that well. Lots of wilting, dying back. But in terms of the plants, they're quite strong and they're a decent size. We have a few down here. This guy is called Chinese string aubergine, which isn't looking too bad. Look forward to harvesting that one and trying out. And again, this is only the second aubergine that we have fruit in. But on the other side, it's a completely different affair. We've got melons galore. Let's start off and look at Prescott from Blanc. This is a traditional heirloom melon. It's gonna ripen to a gorgeous, rich, burnt orange color, and it looks almost like a pumpkin rather than a melon. Really excited for that guy. Now, on this side, we've got even more melons. This one is producing 1, 2, 3, 4. And these are almost starting to smell ripe, and wow, that is going to be ready for picking in no time at all. On the other side here, we have Golden Jenny, a small type of melon, which is going to be absolutely gorgeous in a few weeks' time. Cucumbers. Now, this is one I'd love to speak to you about. This is called Puna Kira. It's a traditional Indian cucumber, and it can be picked at various stages of its life. It can be picked when it's a little bit younger and green and eaten fresh like a regular cucumber, or harvest when it's got this brown russeted skin. And this is delicious when you grill it or cook it or fry it. And yeah, Puna Kira, quite an unusual cucumber. If you want to try something a little bit different next year, maybe give that one a go. Moving along, we have the traditional Market More cucumbers. These are just what you would usually find in the supermarket, really reliable. And this is a Japanese style cucumber. The name is Anagu. I've probably got that wrong, but that's what the label says. And behind that we have Kiwano jelly melon. This is an African jelly melon, and this thing looks like a spiky grenade. You wouldn't want to have that thrown at you at some speed. What else do we have going on down here? So much we could talk about. Watermelons. This is a yellow variety of watermelon. It's been bulking up over the last few weeks. Not sure how big it's going to get, but still, that's not a bad size for the UK climate. We have a couple more smaller watermelons dotted through. This one's called Sugar Baby. It's only meant to get the size of a big apple, so really looking forward to harvesting that guy. And yeah, that probably concludes what we've got going on in the polytunnel. And there's a couple more things I would like to show you, some crops that you might not necessarily think you can grow here in the UK. Growing in these pots, we've got ginger and turmeric. The taller one is ginger and the shorter broadleaves is turmeric. I simply bought some tubers from an organic farm shop, soaked them in water and then planted them into smaller pots, and they sprouted after a few months. I've now moved them into bigger fabric pots to allow airflow around the base. And yeah, they seem to be doing all right in the polytunnel. So fingers crossed we get a ginger and turmeric harvest. And when you pick these leaves and give them a scrunch and a smell, oh my God, that is pure ginger. And the leaves are edible. They can be used in cookings, shredded for garnishes, or thrown into soups and stews to really provide that punch. So down here we have another plant which I'm so excited to be growing, and it's lemongrass. Everybody knows the flavor of lemongrass in Thai cuisine, and that's one of my favorite ways to cook. So the thought of being able to come into the polytunnel and cut your own fresh lemongrass here in the UK is a very exciting prospect. On the other side, we have okra, lady's fingers, bindi, whatever you may know. They haven't grown that big. We've got a green variety. And then in this corner, we've got a very unusual sort of stubby variety. And this guy down here is like a ruby red okra. Just so excited to also be growing okra here in the UK. But there's one more crop which I would love to show you guys, which is super exciting. And that plant is what we have growing in this rather large pot. I bought this as a very small cutting back in January 2020, and 2 years later, boom, the plant's looking lush, healthy. And this is wasabi, a plant that you would usually associate growing in the forest rivers of Japan, yet here we have it growing in a pot in Hampshire. Now the key to growing wasabi is to make sure it has wet feet. So keeping this well watered, giving it ample moisture. And the second top tip for growing wasabi is it really needs to be kept in the shade. So this could actually work as a great house plant. If you've got a shady corner of the room, why not grow a wasabi plant? And after a few years, you'll be able to harvest the fresh rhizomes. And the rhizome is the swollen root of the, it's the swollen stem of the plant. And that's what you freshly grate to make wasabi paste. Absolutely delicious. I cannot wait to harvest this. Hopefully in October, November times, we'll be harvesting this guy, making a video showing you how you can propagate more cuttings from the wasabi and making that absolutely incredible fresh wasabi paste. So yeah, you can grow wasabi in the UK. Round the back of the polytunnel, and we have some of my favorite flowering plants. My #1 flower this year is definitely this Indonesian cosmos called Kenikura. It's used in Indonesian cuisine for these bright orange petals which just add contrast and delicious flavor to dishes. Now, color-wise, this planting of African white marigolds interplanted with the blue cornflowers is just absolutely incredible, and a combination I will be doing again next year. It just looks absolutely amazing, and it's the colours of my football team. Come on, you Spurs. Given my culinary background and being a chef for almost 10 years, one of the things I was most excited to build in the garden was a cooking area. Here I've built a fire pit with some rods over the top so we can hang off pots, pans and grills. Over the next few months, I'm going to be making loads of YouTube videos on how you can cook and prepare your homegrown produce. So that's it from me, guys. Thank you very much for coming on this garden tour with me. It's been a pleasure to show you around the garden. I'm hoping to push with a lot more YouTube over the next couple of months. And if there's any sort of things you'd like to see or videos you'd like me to make, just let me know, drop me a comment down in the little box and I'll get back to you and hopefully be able to make those sorts of videos. Anyway, please subscribe to the channel. It really does help me out. Drop a like, drop a comment. Yeah, and that's it from me. Peace out.